What happens when a decorated veteran, someone who risked everything for their country, is told their injuries aren't related to their service? It sounds unbelievable, but for many veterans, this is a harsh reality. Imagine giving your all on the battlefield, earning honors and respect, only to have the system that's supposed to protect you turn its back and deny the support you desperately need. In this video, we'll uncover the story of one such veteran, a man whose service record shines brightly. Yet the VA claimed his injuries were not service-connected. This isn't just a story about paperwork or bureaucracy. It's about real people facing real struggles, fighting for the recognition and care they deserve. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear reveals cracks in a system that impacts thousands, and it might just change how you see the battle veteran's face long after the war is over. By the end, you'll understand why these denials happen, the emotional and financial toll they take, and most importantly, what veterans can do to stand their ground. This story goes beyond the headlines. It's a glimpse into the fight for justice that continues today. Let's dive in. When most people think of veterans, they imagine heroes honored for their bravery and sacrifices. But the reality is often far more complicated. Take this veteran's story, decorated for his service. Yet when it came time to file for disability benefits, the VA told him his injuries weren't related to his time in the military. This denial wasn't just a bureaucratic error, it was a devastating blow that called into question everything he had endured. The VA's decision hinged on a technicality. Despite submitting all his medical records and service documents on time, they claimed his file was incomplete. This left him fighting against a system that seemed designed to overlook or dismiss his claims. For many veterans, the process is confusing and frustrating, filled with paperwork, delays, and second-guessing. The emotional toll is immense. Feeling invisible after putting your life on the line is a betrayal that cuts deep. What makes this story even more unsettling is that this isn't an isolated case. Thousands of veterans face similar battles, where their sacrifices are questioned and their needs sidelined. The VA's criteria for service connection can be rigid and opaque, and even perfect paperwork doesn't guarantee fair treatment. This veteran's experience highlights a bigger issue, a system struggling to balance fairness with overwhelming demand, often leaving the most deserving behind. But that wasn't the whole story. The first hurdle he faced was the VA's definition of service-related. Despite clear evidence of injuries sustained during active duty, the VA examiners questioned the connection. Medical records were scrutinized, and inconsistencies were pointed out, even though they were minor or unrelated to his actual condition. This tactic, often called cherry-picking, is a frustrating reality for many veterans trying to prove their case. What made it worse was the timing. The veteran had submitted all the necessary paperwork on time, including service medical records, doctor's statements, and personal accounts. Yet the VA insisted that some documents were missing or incomplete. This catch-22 situation is a common trap. Veterans are penalized for paperwork issues even when they've done everything right. The process feels less like support and more like an obstacle course designed to wear you down. Frustration turned into desperation as appeals dragged on for months, then years. Each denial letter brought new questions, often contradicting previous decisions. The veteran found himself caught in a bureaucratic maze, needing legal advice and support just to navigate the system. This kind of struggle isn't rare. Many veterans are left feeling abandoned by the very institution meant to protect them. And what happened next would shock everyone. The situation took a darker turn when the veteran's injuries began to worsen, but the VA continued to deny full responsibility. Despite worsening symptoms and clear medical evidence linking his condition to his service, the VA's stance remained firm. His injuries weren't considered service-related. This denial isn't just frustrating, it can have serious consequences, limiting access to critical health care, compensation, and support that veterans deserve. Adding to the challenge was the confusing and often conflicting information provided by the VA. One examiner might acknowledge the service connection, while another would contradict that assessment entirely. This inconsistency left the veteran unsure of where he stood and made it difficult to build a strong case. For many, this back and forth creates a sense of helplessness, as if the system is working against them rather than for them. The emotional toll was enormous. Feeling ignored and dismissed by an institution that was supposed to honor his sacrifices, the veteran struggled with stress, anxiety, and even depression. These mental health challenges are common among veterans facing bureaucratic battles, but they often go unrecognized or untreated, further compounding their difficulties. But the story doesn't end there. What happened next would reveal a side of the VA claims process that few are prepared for, and it's a lesson every veteran and their family should know. Determined not to give up, the veteran decided to dig deeper into the claims process, seeking help from veteran advocacy groups and legal experts who specialize in VA cases. This step was crucial. Many veterans aren't aware that they have the right to appeal decisions or request supplemental evidence to support their claims. With guidance, he learned how to gather detailed medical records, service documents, and witness statements that directly linked his injuries to his time in service. One surprising discovery was the power of a well-prepared medical nexus letter, a statement from a qualified doctor explicitly connecting a veteran's current condition to their military service. This piece of evidence can sometimes be the difference between a denial and approval, yet many veterans never know to ask for one. With this new documentation, the veteran was able to challenge the VA's initial conclusions and present a clearer, more compelling case. Navigating the VA appeals process was far from easy. It involved patience, persistence, and understanding a maze of forms, deadlines, and hearings. But each step forward built momentum. The veteran's story began to gain traction as the evidence piled up, forcing the VA to reconsider their earlier stance. What happened next was unexpected and eye-opening, shedding light on the importance of knowing your rights and having the right support when facing the VA system. Despite mounting evidence, the VA continued to resist fully acknowledging the connection between the veteran's injuries and his service. This resistance often stems from bureaucratic hurdles and strict interpretation of service records, but it can leave deserving veterans stuck in a frustrating cycle of denials and delays. The veteran realized that proving his case required not just paperwork, but a clear, consistent narrative, one that tied every injury and symptom back to a specific event or exposure during his time in uniform. He began compiling a detailed timeline of his service, injuries, medical treatments, and how those conditions have worsened over time. This timeline became a powerful tool, showing the VA exactly how his health had been affected by service-related events. He also sought out statements from fellow service members who witnessed his injuries or the conditions he endured, adding personal testimonies that brought his story to life beyond the clinical reports. This phase highlighted a common pitfall for many veterans. Their stories can get lost in the shuffle without persistent follow-up. The veteran made sure to stay in constant communication with his VA representative and legal advisor, pushing for updates and advocating for thorough reviews of his claim. It wasn't just about submitting documents. It was about making sure those documents were seen, understood, and properly considered. Eventually, his persistence paid off. The VA acknowledged the legitimacy of his injuries as service-related, which was a turning point after years of doubt and dismissal. But this victory came with a deeper understanding of how complicated and emotionally draining the process can be, and how vital it is to have the right knowledge and support every step of the way. After finally getting the VA to recognize his injuries as service-related, the veteran faced a new challenge: navigating the complex world of disability compensation. This part of the process often feels like a maze, with confusing forms, unclear guidelines, and long waiting periods that test even the most patient individuals. Many veterans find themselves overwhelmed, unsure of how to present their case in a way that maximizes their benefits. The veteran quickly learned that understanding the VA's rating system was crucial. Each injury or condition is assigned a percentage that reflects its impact on daily life, but these percentages aren't always straightforward. Minor details can make a big difference in how a claim is evaluated. For example, symptoms that seem unrelated might actually support a higher disability rating when properly documented. To avoid losing out on compensation he deserved, the veteran took the time to gather thorough medical evidence and expert opinions. He requested independent medical examinations when necessary, ensuring that every aspect of his condition was clearly documented and linked to his service. This thorough approach made it harder for the VA to dispute his claims. Still, delays and denials can happen, even with strong evidence. The veteran faced moments of frustration and doubt, but he didn't give up. He learned to appeal decisions, seeking help from veterans advocates and legal representatives who specialize in navigating the VA system. Their expertise proved invaluable in making sure his case was heard fairly. What many don't realize is that the compensation process is ongoing. Veterans must keep the VA updated on changes in their condition and may need to undergo reevaluations. Staying proactive and informed is key to protecting benefits over time. The veteran's experience shows that persistence, preparation, and the right support can turn a difficult system into a pathway to the benefits he earned through his service. Even after overcoming the initial hurdles with the VA, the veteran faced a reality many don't expect: the emotional toll of feeling misunderstood and undervalued by the very system meant to support him. Despite being decorated and having clear service-related injuries, he often felt like just another file number rather than a person who sacrificed so much. This disconnect added stress and frustration, impacting his mental health and overall well-being. Many veterans share this feeling of invisibility, especially when their injuries are invisible too, like PTSD, chronic pain, or traumatic brain injuries. These conditions don't always show up clearly on scans or tests, making it harder to prove their severity. The veteran had to fight, not just for recognition, but for validation that what he was experiencing was real and deserved support. This emotional battle often goes unspoken. Veterans might hesitate to speak openly about their struggles, fearing stigma or disbelief. The IOI veteran found strength in connecting with support groups and others who understood his journey. Sharing stories and advice helped him feel less alone and empowered to keep pushing forward. He also learned that taking care of his mental health was just as important as managing physical injuries. Accessing counseling, therapy, and other resources became part of his recovery and helped him rebuild a sense of purpose and hope. This part of the journey reminded him and others that healing isn't just about paperwork and ratings. It's about finding balance and support to live well. Ultimately, the veteran's experience reveals a deeper truth. The VA system may seem impersonal, but behind every claim is a person who deserves respect, understanding, and compassion. Recognizing this is the first step toward not just securing benefits, but reclaiming dignity and peace of mind after service. Now that you've heard this veteran's story, it's clear that navigating the VA system can be incredibly complex and emotionally challenging, especially when injuries are questioned or dismissed. But remember, you're not alone in this struggle, and understanding the obstacles is the first step toward overcoming them. The fight for what you deserve is tough, but with the right knowledge, support, and persistence, it's possible to claim the benefits you've earned. If any part of this story resonated with you, or if you're currently facing similar challenges, take a moment to reflect on what steps you can take next. Whether it's gathering stronger evidence, seeking help from veteran advocates, or simply connecting with others who understand your experience, every action counts. Thank you for spending your time here today. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing important stories like this one. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing one insight you found helpful or a question you might have. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts because your voice matters and can inspire others in the community. If you found this video valuable, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future content that can help veterans and their families. Together, we can raise awareness and make sure no one's sacrifice goes unrecognized. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to having you with us in the next video.